Yeah. Please join us.
Welcome. It is very good to be here with all of you as we enter Yom Kippur. I think about that teaching we are so familiar with of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, that Judaism creates space and time, palace and time, and Yom Kippur, and maybe even more significantly, Kol Nidre, is this cradle that we come back to each year that can hold us as we do the inner work, the interpersonal work, to be our best selves. Take a look at the person next to you. Just give a little love. And it's my, I have to remind you, thank you for keeping your masks on completely the entire time. It's a way that we care for one another. And if anyone asks you because it slipped off your nose, don't be offended. Say, thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Right? Good? Okay. It's my pleasure to call up Yefim Sverbalov for the honor of lighting candles. We're on page 9.
Together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של יום הכיפורים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו והחיינו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
As I open the ark, it will be empty, and we will bring the Torahs back in. And the empty ark has many symbols in our tradition. I invite you to consider where the emptiness is in yourself that you might bring some healing to over these next hours. Please rise.
זרו על הצדיק וישרי לב שמחה.
זרו על הצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה. זרו על הצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה. זרו
on page 16. Or zaru ala tzaddik ul yishra lev simcha. Light is sown for the righteous, radiance and joy for the pure of heart. Please join me. With one voice, assembled sages, past and present, declare, all may pray as one on this night of repentance. Let none be excluded from our community of prayer. With one voice, God and congregation proclaim, all may pray as one on this day of return. Let all find a place in this sacred assembly.
Kol Nidre v'sarei v'charamei v'kunamei v'chinuyei v'kinusei u'shivuot B'teilin mevutalin la sheririm v'la kayamin nidre
tevana udeacharim na v'tasarna l'nafshetana dindarna Udeish tevana udeacharimna v'dini asarna al nafshetana mihom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim. Icharatna vehon kol hon yon sharan yon sharan yon sharan.
All vows, resolves, and commitments, vows of abstinence and terms of obligation, sworn promises and oaths of dedication that we promise and swear to God and take upon ourselves. From this day of atonement until next day of atonement, may it find us well. We regret them, and for all of them we repent. Let all of them be discarded and forgiven, abolished and undone. They are not valid and they are not binding. Our vows shall not be vows, our resolves shall not be resolves, and our oaths, they shall not be oaths.
Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha.
We remain standing for the Baruch Hu on page 22.
We continue with the words of Shema on page 28.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated. The next blessing is traditionally via hafta, but I want to do something different for a moment. As the last service closed, Rabbi Mintz asked, where's the part where we love ourselves? And so I want to offer you a moment to do that, to just be quiet for a second and think, over the last year, what love have you offered our world? What's some love and tenderness you're proud of that you want to invite into the new year? See it written on your hand, on your brow, in every common place and in every face. We continue with the Micha Mocha on page 40.
Mi chamocha pa'ilim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, osei Adonai yimloch leolam vaed. Adonai yimloch leolam vaed. Nora tehilot. Lord. Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
Before our next prayer, I just wanted to acknowledge for a moment someone who we usually have with us, someone who is, I am sure, zooming in at this very moment, Rabbi Beth Singer. And many of you have asked how Rabbi Beth is doing, how she's healing, and we miss her dearly. I would really feel it's appropriate to turn from wherever you are and say, Gamar Tov to Rabbi Beth. We miss you.
Hi, Beth.
We know that you're here with us, and we wish you a refuah shlema, a complete recovery, and we know that as soon as you are ready, you will be warmly welcomed back, and we can't wait to see you. And I also want to acknowledge that Rabbi Paris, who is usually with us, is not here, and she has some good news. The good news is that she's going to be expecting a daughter. And so that is good news for our congregation, and I know she will be back with us inside when the time is right. But those two beautiful members of our clergy are not with us in body, but they're with us in spirit and here with us for Kol Nidre. So many of us have gone through trials and tribulations, surgeries, illnesses. It has been quite an 18 months. Who would have ever thought that we would have to prioritize either our mental health or our physical health in the past year and a half, thinking about maybe endangering somebody's life by getting close to them, but by being far away, causing so much strife. We all need more protection than ever. And so we turn now to page 42 for the Hashkivenu, and we pray together for the Sukkot Shlomecha, which in these past 18 months have become more and more precious. The Sukkah, the shelter of peace, the shelter of protection, and the shelter of love.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom. Ve'hamidenu shomrenu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, l'chaim, l'chaim. Ushmor tzeitzenu, u'hoenu, u'hoenu, l'chaim u'l'shalom, l'chaim u'l'shalom, 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 me'ata ve'ad olam, me'ata ve'ad olam. Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo,
Haporei Su'echai Shalom, Aleinu, Aleinu, Ve'al kol amo Yisrael,
We continue now in our service with the tefillah, and we turn to page 46 as we rise together.
Adonai, Adonai, Sefatai tiftach, Ufi, Ufi, Akid, Tehilatecha.
Melech, Melech, למות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני נחיי הכל.
The Amidah continues all the way to page 81. There's a lot of liturgy. The right side, the traditional prayers, the left, alternative readings. I want you to use this time for you. If you want to go through all the prayers, that's great. If you want to pick one reading and meditate on it, if you want to stand the whole time or sit, take a couple of minutes to do what you need to do for your heart.
We are gifts and we are blessings. We are His story and song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words And we are stories, we are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. Ledor vador nagid golecha. Ledor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Ledor vador these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our hearts, from the shadows of the mountain to the waters that would part, we are blessed and we are holy, we are children of your way. And the words that bring us meaning, we will have the strength to say. Ledor vador nagid golecha. Ledor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Ledor vador these lips will praise your name. Ledor vador nagid golecha. Ledor vador we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Ledor vador these lips will praise your name.
I wrote you a letter. Dear friend, I've been thinking about you a lot this past year and a half. I think back to when I was in the empty sanctuary last High Holy Days and how much I missed you. How much I missed hearing the room filled with the voices, with hugs from people I'd seen last week and others I hadn't seen since last High Holy Days. But everyone stayed home, trying to avoid catching COVID. And it felt like for a long time, that's all we talked about, was how you catch it, how you avoid it. And I never could have imagined that again, a year later, on Kol Nidre, that I would be standing here in the sanctuary, wearing a mask, the room not yet back to capacity. And we've made incredible steps. But it's also obvious that we're not there yet. Last year, I looked into that black box right there, hoping that it would translate my love across the fiber optics. Now tonight, I'm lucky enough to see some of your eyes. Not everyone's eyes, at least not yet. Now, I've not just been thinking about you because I miss you. I've been thinking about what we've been facing and surrounded by day in and day out for 18 months now. Because these 18 months and the stress and the fear, it hasn't really been about COVID. That's just been the surface discussion. And I don't know if you're like me, but I acted like once the vaccine was invented and distributed, and I got a shot in the arm, the whole thing would just be over. And then I could return back to normal life. But I don't really think this has been about us being surrounded by COVID. This has been about us being surrounded by death. And it's been overwhelming. And we just want it to end. And I get it. But the more that I thought, the more that I couldn't shake the feeling that facing death hourly and not learning from what it has to offer, it'd be a travesty. Now, facing death and not turning away but leaning into it and the lessons it has to teach us, it can be one of the greatest and the most profound gifts we can squeeze from this life. Now, that's the irony. Dying and death can teach us to live deeper and more meaningful lives. And we've been surrounded like a small boat in the middle of the Pacific, with no land in sight, only death day in and day out, as we gaze upon the horizon with no end in sight. We're reminded on the news, reminded when we see someone with a mask, reminded when we couldn't go to the doctor or the hospital because they were too full with people dying. 18 months or more of being separated from seeing family and friends, hugging grandchildren, all because death, it was swirling around us. And we just want it to end. My Tio Willie, my uncle in Argentina, he died this year. And he didn't die from COVID. He died from the isolation of COVID. My family, they couldn't fly down to Argentina to take care of him or to see him. And then we saw him buried on an iPad. And we just want it to end. To go back to the way things used to be. Now, we don't want to face death. It's a future that we want to hide away from and not think about. And it's not because we're a people who are so mindful and present that we do not think about the future. And I'm not talking about next week or next month. We live our lives preparing decades in advance about what could come. Our high school students, they work on their grades and their extracurriculars in order to get into a good college. And in college, we want to make sure we get a good job. And then when you finally get that good job, we begin to put money away in our 401k so that one day we can retire and then maybe help our kids and our grandkids. A lot of us, we live our lives preparing for what's next, when in reality, none of that is guaranteed. We don't know if we're going to end up in college, or being lucky enough to even use our 401k, or even have children for that matter. But nonetheless, we prepare. There is only one thing that we don't prepare for. And it's the only thing that's guaranteed. Birth, it was all of our beginnings. And death will be all of our destinations. Everyone that we know will die. And we would not just begin preparing to get into college when the applications are due, or begin to think about how am I going to afford retirement when I actually get to that age. So we plan so that each stage we do the very best that we can. So why is it that the only thing in life that is guaranteed we don't actually plan for? We don't prepare. This time of being surrounded by death every single day, it actually can be a gift. Because preparing for a good death, it's the foundation for a good life. And the rabbis, they knew this. There's wisdom that's been left for us like sparkling gems that we probably just didn't notice because we've been too busy. And these gems, it's wisdom from our ancestors who have been through this before, and they've mined meaning and truth from death. It's why tonight I wrote to you. Kol Nidre is about exactly that. The rabbis, they laid out a 3-step process for us within everything that we're going to do in the next 24 hours. The first step is the process of recognition and honesty with truth. A truth that we all know, but we've been turning away from because it's just been too much. And then a process of confronting the hardest parts of our lives. And then finally, facing the question that all of us have been asking since our earliest days of consciousness. Is there anything after this? Now, the first step in facing one's death is facing one's death. It's recognizing that we're finite, that our time is limited, and that what limits our time is our body, our physicality. It's why tomorrow we will read the Unatana Tokef. The rabbis put that there for us. Who will live and who will die? Who will die after a long life and who before his time? Who by water and who by fire? Who by famine and who by thirst? Who by upheaval and who by plague? And it was not put there as a threat. It was put there as a touchstone of truth and reality, that each of us is finite. That as we grow older, we can see the signs of the finitude of our existence. The first freckles that we get when we're out in the sun a little bit too long. The wrinkles that gets worn into our face from hundreds of thousands of hours of just living. The cut on our arm when we were a little kid that healed in a few days and now it takes a few weeks. These subtle reminders, they're a powerful gift. And they're a reminder that we're much more than our physicality. If our goal is to remain vital, physicality is a diminishing route. Just as with our deaths, it's the death of our body, the vessel that has carried us through this journey. And for a lot of us, we may think that the death of our body is the death of us. But give me a minute, we'll get to that. We can only come to that question once we have faced the reality of our body's finitude. Who will live and who will die? And there is only one answer to that question. You and me. And as I write this to you, I was also aware that this may be the last thing that I ever get to write to you. Either because I'll be gone soon, or you will. And if that's the case, I better not waste what I have to say to you. And that brings me to my second point. If it is the last thing that I get to say, where do I start? It's overwhelming. Do I focus on what I want to teach? On what I'm appreciative of who I love, of what I learned? Now, according to the rabbis, those things are important, and I should have already captured all of those in my ethical will. A document that lists not what I'm physically leaving to the world, but what learnings in love that I want to leave to the world. And while important, the rabbis, they tell us that this is not what we should be talking about at the end, when we are truly aware and surrounded by death. And we've been surrounded by death. Over 4.5 million people have died. In our country, every 2 days, we are losing more people than we lost 20 years ago on September 11th. Which means the time is now for me and also for you to focus on the Vidui, the confessional prayer of Judaism. Now, the Vidui, it comes after the Unatana Tokef tomorrow. The Vidui, it says that the most important conversation that we can have is not to reminisce on all of the wonderful things in our life, but to talk about the one thing that we've been avoiding, the conflict. The conflict that was never resolved. Now, most people think this is the worst possible time to have a conversation like this, but it's not. It's actually the most important time to have it. I've heard people refer to it as the Jewish last rites, as if tying a parallel to Catholicism is an equivalency. And I gotta be honest with you, this irks me to my core, because it misses the central power of the Vidui. You see, when the Catholic priest walks in to give last rites, they enter the room as a conduit where they alone can absolve you. In Judaism, the rabbi, not so powerful. If you keep it just between us, being a rabbi doesn't afford you any extra power. If you don't believe me, you can ask Elisa. She will confirm it 100%. If I go into a room with someone who's ready to say the Vidui, I literally can do nothing to absolve them. Because a rabbi is not a priest. A rabbi is just a teacher and a judge. The only one who can make the Vidui work is the person saying it. So what does it say? It says, listen, I've made mistakes. I wish I would have done better. But I'm human. And I love you. And I want you to know that when I'm gone, that conflict that we had, it's going to be a part of your grief. And I'm so sorry for the pain that I caused you. Please forgive me. The rabbis are aware that grief is complicated. And even though no one wants to talk about the hard stuff and the conflict, that will become the primary focus when the person is gone. Because complicated relationships equals complicated grief. The Vidui, it creates a path for two people to come to peace with each other. You see, the Vidui, it's not about death. The Vidui is about creating peace while you're lucky enough to be alive. And I cannot tell you how appreciative I am that after this year of so much death, that I'm still here getting to talk to you, and that you're still here. And that each of us can use this time to have the most important conversations of our entire lives while we're still conscious. Finally, the question of questions. Is there anything after this? Now, tomorrow, at the end of Nila, when all we can think about is break the fast, we're going to be on the final page of the Machzor in their prayer book, and we will say the Shema. And it's the same Shema that one is supposed to say at the moment that they're going to die, the last words out of their mouth. And in case we hadn't picked up on the theme of truly facing our death, that Shema right there, it's as clear as day. But you see, the service, it doesn't actually end on the Shema. The prayer book moves from our certainty to the mystery which stands before us. Is there anything after my life? What comes after I say that Shema for the final time? And I know as I write this, many of you are probably rolling your eyes thinking, come on, Rabbi. I mean, it's pretty obvious. At the end of my life, it's the end of me. I'm going to decompose. I'm going to be put into the earth, and I'm going to become the earth. But as we sit together on the quietest night of the entire year, I just ask you to remain open. Amos Oz, he notes from his philosophy teacher, Hugo Bergman, that nobody knows if there's anything on the other side of death, or if there's nothing there. And we can deduce from this complete ignorance that the chances that there's something there are exactly the same as the chances that there's nothing there. 50% for cessation and 50% for survival. Now, how could it be that life is so finite and we conceive of death as infinite darkness. And this can be overwhelming to our core, and I can tell you it's overwhelming to me, to the point that it can just be too much to even think about. So the liturgy and the rabbis, they no longer whisper across the pages, but they begin to yell progressively louder at us that the Shema, it's not the end. The Shema may not be the end of our souls in this world. Now, think about that for a second. For some reason, we know that our minds are finite. Our comprehension of the universe and reality is finite. It's limited. But even with that knowledge, for some reason, so many of us are so certain that we know what comes next. Judaism, it approaches God and death with the same idea, that there's far more that we do not know than what we do know. And the rabbis, they challenge us. And I ask you to accept that challenge of just remaining open to the possibility that there may be something greater that our finite imagination cannot comprehend. That's why, as we exhale empty of breath at the end of the Shema tomorrow evening, we take a pause. And we think it's come to an end. And then with a vitality and a power, we suck in a full breath of air and go, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Bless the infinite forever and ever. A declaration that the infinite is truly infinite, with infinite possibilities. My friend, I sat down tonight in the dark of my house as my wife and my kids, they slept, with the air purifier whirring in the background, to write you this letter. And to tell you that this letter and this day that we're in, it was never about death. This is about life and how to live. How your actions and your conversations will live beyond your body for years and generations that neither of us could have ever imagined. Our voices will echo here in people's minds and hearts long after we're gone. This moment of time that we're journeying through, it's a gift if we use it. Now, most people never confront these truths or have these life-altering conversations until they've reached the door of their own death. We happen to be living in a moment of time where we can transform our lives while we're still physically here. As we journey from Unatana Tokef, recognizing that you will die, to Vidui, the most important work we will ever do in this life, to Shema, the great affirmation of the infinite. This will be the hardest effort, and this will be the most important work you or I will ever do in our entire lives. It's work that will carry our souls long after we've reached our destination. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage to life everlasting. Because death, it was only about your body. But by making this a sacred pilgrimage, we truly make life everlasting. Because the infinite is truly infinite. With much love and blessings, and ultimately, my friend, l'chaim, to life. Ryan.
be your will, that I speak no more, and my voice be still, as it was before. I will speak no more. I shall abide until I am spoken for, if it be your will. If it be your will, let a voice be true from this broken hill. I will sing to you from this broken hill. All your praises they shall ring, if it be your will to let me sing. From this broken hill, all your praises they shall ring, if it be your will to let me sing, if it be your will.
And just as Rabbi Bauer taught us about Vidui, we continue with that part of our service. It's on page 82 in our Machzor. These ancient words that help us open our hearts to offer out what we don't want to hold on to anymore, to acknowledge the places where we haven't quite been who we wanted to be. Please rise. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. Hamasnu,
Tefalnu shaker.
Tefalnu shaker.
Ay, 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 ay.
Yatsnura.
Yatsnura.
Kizavnu.
Kizavnu.
Latsnu.
Latsnu.
Maradnu.
Maradnu.
Niatsnu.
Niatsnu. Ay, 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 ay. Sararnu.
Sararnu.
Avinu.
Avinu.
Ashanu.
Ashanu.
Sararnu.
Sararnu.
Kishinu Horeh.
Kishinu Horeh.
Ay, 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 ay.
Rashanu.
Rashanu.
Shichatnu.
Shichatnu.
Tiavnu.
Tiavnu.
Tainu.
Tainu.
Tiatznu.
Tiatznu.
Ay, 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 ay,
Please join us at the bottom of page 82 as we read this together in English. Of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely, we are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey, we abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes, we are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill, we spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. Please be seated. We continue now on page 89 as we read the alternative Al Chet Shechatanus responsively. For failures of integrity, we wrong you when we wrong ourselves. For our failures of integrity, Adonai, we seek forgiveness.
For passing judgment without knowledge of the facts, and for distorting facts to suit our purposes.
For succumbing in silence to social pressure, and for acquiescing in beliefs we find offensive.
For using others' bad behavior to excuse our own, and for blaming others for our mistakes and poor decisions.
For pretending to emotions we do not feel, and for appearing to be other than what we are.
For condemning in our children the faults we tolerate in ourselves, and for tolerating in ourselves the faults we condemn in our parents. Failures of justice. We dishonor you when we dishonor our society. For our failures of justice, Adonai, we seek forgiveness.
For being indifferent to deprivation and hunger, while accepting a culture of self-indulgence and greed.
For abuse of power in boardrooms, courtrooms, and classrooms, and for accepting the neglect of children and elders, the ill and the weak.
For permitting social inequalities to prevail, and for lacking the vision to transcend our selfishness.
For glorifying violence and turning hastily to war, and for allowing history to repeat itself.
For behaviors that risk the future of our planet, and for wreaking havoc on our only true inheritance, God's creation. Failures of love. We sin against you when we hurt one another. For our failures of love, Adonai, we seek forgiveness.
For exploiting another for our own pleasure, and for the wounds we cause through betrayal and deception.
For withholding affection from those we claim to love, and for using love to control our spouses and partners, our children and parents.
For abandoning friends and siblings whose love has sustained us, and for neglecting those who love us when they need us most.
For harboring in our relationships mistrust, boredom, and disloyalty, and for rejecting our partner's efforts at repair and renewal.
For possessiveness, jealousy, and avarice, and for lashing out in anger at those who are closest to us. Help us, Holy One, to follow your ways of integrity, justice, and love, Teach us to seek forgiveness with humility and an open heart. V'al kulam Elohas lichot tzalach lanu mechal lanu kaper lanu. For all these wrongs, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Continue on page 98 with Shema Kolenu. It means hear our voice, and it reminds me of actually the story of Rebecca when she demands of her sons, Shema b'koli, hear my voice. She has a way of insisting that those men around her do as she says, and I think there's a theology there, a Jewish kind of theology that we are not afraid to confront and to put out our demands to the universe. So we offer these words, Shema Kolenu.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel berachamim u'bratzon, et tefillatenu, Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel berachamim u'bratzon, et tefillatenu, hashivenu Adonai lecha, v'nashuva. Kadesh Yameinu kekedem, Ashivenu Adonai lecha,
We turn now to page 114, and as the ark is opened, we rise for Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu ve'al olaleinu v'tzapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our families. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei dever v'cherev v'ra'av me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei kol tsar umastin me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu, kotvenu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, malei yadenu mebirchotecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessing. Avinu Malkeinu, harem keren mishichecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu, na'al chivenu, rakem milfanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing. Avinu Malkeinu, kabel barachamim uvratzon et tefilatenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love and accept and embrace it. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh imanu lema'an shemecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh lemancha imlo lemanenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours. Avinu Malkeinu, ein lanu melech ela ata.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu, patach sha'arei shemayim letefilatenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer. Avinu Malkeinu, shema kolenu, chus v'rachem aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, chanenu ve'anenu, ki ein banu ma'asim, aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol aleinu, ve'alol aleinu, v'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei tefer, v'cherev rav me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei kotzar, umaftihin me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, kodvenu b'sefer chayim tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu, chadesh aleinu, shana tova. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu,
Avinu Malkeinu, Onenu Vanenu, Avinu Malkeinu, Onenu Vanenu, Yen Banu Masim, Asei Manu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Asei Manu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Ve'hoshienu, Asei Manu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Asei Manu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Ve'hoshienu, Avinu Malkeinu, Onenu Vanenu, Avinu Malkeinu, Onenu Vanenu, Yen Banu Masim.
We remain standing. We turn now to page 122 as we conclude the service with the Mourner's Kaddish. And I read before these holy words of memory and praise a poem by Yehuda Halevi called "'Tis a Fearful Thing." "'Tis a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, to hope, to dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools, this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love, what death has touched." And there are so many of us here in the sanctuary and joining us from all over who are in mourning. Whether you lost someone to COVID or during this past year of COVID, it's been a very difficult time of loss and of grief. And so as my hand moves around the congregation, please feel free to say someone's name that you have lost or whose yahrzeit, the anniversary of their death, falls during these holy days.
Jeffrey Nathanson.
Harry Gerber Lewis. We say these words together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach ruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeh dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam al mei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela u'le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran ve'elma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
As we conclude our service, we turn to page 126 for Adon Olam. After we sing together, please return your machzors on your way out to the carts outside. And we look forward to you joining us all day tomorrow. We have many different options, indoors and outdoors. We can be together and connected as we be in this time of Yom Kippur.
אדון עולם השם עליו בטרם כל יציר נברא ועת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ועת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא אחד ואין שני להמשיך לו להגבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמצרה והוא אלי וחי גואלי בצור חבלי בעת צרה והוא ניסי ומנוסי מנת כוסי ביום אקרא אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ועת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה.
This year, we have already said so many of the ways that we have erred, we have sinned, we have gone astray, we have been so terrible. This year, can't we set away and aside some time just to acknowledge how good we are, how loving we have been in this terrible time, how loved we have felt, how even though we have been so far away from one another, we have found ways to reach out, even masked, even 6 feet away, from the people who are across the country from us. This is our time to grow closer and be more loving. So whoever you haven't talked to in your family today, well, if they're on the East Coast, wait till tomorrow morning. But if they're anywhere around and you feel like you miss them, call them. Tell them how loved they are and how loved you feel by them.
בידו אפני רוחי בעת אישן ואעירה ועם רוחי כביאתי אדוני לי ולא יירא אדוני לי ולא יירא אדוני לי ולא יירא.
Gemar Tov, Rabbi Beth, Rabbi Paris, and all of you, we love you, and we'll spend the whole day together tomorrow. Amen.
Amen. Indoors, outdoors, all good things.